So thanks for another episode of VTD's Urban Multisport Radio podcast show. We are excited today with an exciting new speaker with us. This individual is not only an ambassador to the It's Time to Go Deep virtual summit that's coming up, the #1 international development summit transforming urban markets, but she is also a VIP premier keynote speaker. And tonight we're going to go deep. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to allow my guest, our guest, your leader, ready to transform not just herself, her community, her business, but the entire nation. So welcome aboard. How are you today, Kelly?
I'm doing exceptionally well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, no problem. And can you help everyone understand a recap of who you are and what is going on in your world? Take it away.
Yeah, definitely. So again, my name is Kelly Brown. I'm from Detroit. I'm a speaker and mindset coach. My goal is to empower my clients to shift from a stagnant mindset to independent thinking to unlock their unlimited potential. What's going on in my mind is it's time to shake the nation. It's time to go deep, and it's time to wake some souls up.
Absolutely. And so let's just dive right in, Kelly. Help us to understand what, you are the CEO of a nonprofit. And so what is going on? What do you see as the concern in your community? And what are some of the things that you're looking for support on?
Great. So we just received our 501c3 September 21st, actually a day after my birthday, we received that paperwork in the mail. So just understanding what a 501c3 is and how we can gain more access with capital instead of coming out of our pocket, because we've been coming out of our pocket since day one. So an area where we need is grants. Looking for grants, understanding grants, grant funding, and how to write grants in the world of a nonprofit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so grants is one of those areas, part of the funding stream that most nonprofits need help in. But let's table that for a second as we come back and help us to understand, where are you from?
I'm from Detroit.
All right, Michigan and I.
The west side, the best side, X and 9.
The west side, she said the best side. And so what are some of the concerns that you see that's taking part in your community in Detroit?
So some of the things that when we talk about the urban market, and I see a lot of disparities in my community, it's definitely a food desert. We don't have any healthy food in our community. I have to go outside of my community to grab something healthy. That's number one. Another thing is ownership. Ownership is key. Ownership is to be a stakeholder in your community is important. We want to get people to understand how ownership can change their life. And also the third one, most important that I see, is our social and economic conditions. I had to become more fruitful, frugal, and effective in the way that I think, in the way that I was raised to think about money. So them are some of the things main things that I know that I see in my community.
Visionary leader Dr. Tekemia Dorsey presents the It's Time to Go Deep Summit, the #1 international development summit transforming urban markets. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit is not a normal summit. It's a game-changing summit. The mission of the It's Time to Go Deep Summit is to provide personal development and business growth training to nonprofits, small businesses, and entrepreneurs while increasing resources to the urban market. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit is uniquely different because it is the only summit focused on transforming the urban market by providing training resources to leaders and managers so they can become the resources needed in their community, their industry, and themselves. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit speakers are experts in their industries and remain excited to serve, increase greater impact, and to leave the legacy they are destined to do as did their ancestors. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit goal is to share proven methodology and best practices to current and aspiring leaders and managers for success in business and in life. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit's objective is to assist in the formulation of a blueprint, framework, system, or process for attendees that evoke immediate action. Professional and personal training are ongoing goals needed for positive and transformational growth and development. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit focus is on closing the disparities and barriers that exist by meeting nonprofits, small business owners, and entrepreneurs where they are. The theme of this year's summit is Learn What You Don't Know and Teach What You Do. Grab your free virtual ticket now at www.itstimetogodiepsummit.com.
Okay, let's talk food desert. Food desert is one of those. That's one of the things in our local NAACP that they're fighting right now in our urban market is that of food desert. So for the audience who may not be familiar with what a food desert is or what contribute or why food desert is so important, can you expand on that a little?
Yeah. So if you look inside your community, whatever community you're from, it's always, every city is set up the same, whether it was a ghetto, a urban, a suburban, right? So if you look at all the different cities, you'll see like the ghetto and the low privilege, we have horrible food. So when I look up Joy Road in my community, it's nothing but fast food. It's nothing but gas stations. It's nothing that's helping us grow. Dollar stores, everything is to keep us stuck in the community. So when I started to pay attention to see, like, man, we got to go all the way up Telegraph or Southfield in these different west to east areas to just grab some food, a smoothie or something like that. We don't have anything in, grocery stores, where the grocery stores sell, rotten meat and rotten food. And then it's the price, they spike it up. So it's like, it's a lose-lose.
Yeah, and how have you found that to have a positive or negative impact, in your community? How is that? How have you kind of took a aerial view on the lack of a food desert or the need of increased food deserts or just access to food wholeheartedly in your community?
So I'll pick up it's the lack of better choices. When we talk about a food desert, looking at, again, what food is placed in our community and how it has a negative impact on our health, whether it's diabetes, it causes so many mental health, it causes cancer, it causes all these different things. And it's like, this is what it's designed to do to keep us down. Growing up, they talk about the 3 different things that should be on your plate. But a lot of the food is on our plate create mucus. It creates all these different things that's not allowing us to really grow. We wasn't raised to just eat fruits and vegetables, which is royal food. Mm-hmm. In my household growing up, my aunt didn't fry food like that. If I wanted some fried food, I was like, oh, she was only cooking maybe frying once a week. So it was a lot of baked foods. It was a lot of, I was able to go to Randall's and go to the healthy stores. But in our community now, it's depleted. The closest thing is, the grocery store where you getting rotten vegetables, rotten fruit, and rotten meat.
Yeah, and it's funny you using, when we go to our local store, we run into the same thing. Vegetables, not vegetables, but fruit is high, and strawberries are not lasting more than 48 hours in the refrigerator. And I'm like, didn't we just get that? And already it's molded. And it's the food prices and even gas has spiked so much. And, right now in our area, gas is like $3.40 for 1 gallon. Yeah. When we went to California back in July, it was like $3.80 there. And I was like, it was like $2 here, like $2.50. And it spiked so much. And I'm like, are we in a fuel desert or having a fuel issue right now? Why gas is so high?
Yeah, so I think definitely we're in a recession for sure. We're in a recession. We've been in a recession a long time, and to be able to identify and see it in, we also in the plague. So everything is just, I tell my people, man, put the spiritual lenses on, let God use you to wake you up so you can see what type of shape we're in, because they're definitely trying to rock us to sleep.
Yes, and in a sense of a lack thereof, what do you identify as a source that can help increase the need or the accessibility to a food desert in your area that would help your community?
So that goes back to talking about nonprofits. So a total of 4, we have 4 community lots, me and a few other stakeholders in our community. So within those 4 lots, we're going to turn 2 of those into gardens. So understanding, going back to the roots of gardening, how important gardening is. All praise is due to the Most High God for us to be able to even think like that, to be able to be on this type of time, to really take control and operate our structures, to create a structure of our own sustainable for our people. So we starting with gardening, understanding and taking it back to gardening. And then also, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you were pausing. Go ahead.
Nope. Building relationships, understanding and knowing who in your community, understanding. And now, I was upset with myself because they're putting the KFC in our community, right? And I'm like, damn, I needed to be at the table, but I wasn't at the table, And it's like, if we're not showing up to these meetings, if we don't know who our city councilman is in our districts, they able to do what they want to do until we begin to sit at the table and demand what we need for our people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you just said when you identified showing up at the meetings. You were mad with yourself because you weren't at the table. Yeah. You weren't at the meeting. And it's not like you weren't aware. So in other words, it's not like you're not in your community. You just may have missed this. So how do you feel that others in your community, because you talked about building community relationships, what could others in your community today do to be a part of that solution as it relates to the food desert?
To be a part of it, just really coming together as a unit, us, again, going to the meetings in the community, getting to know who the community liaisons are, knowing who your leaders is, creating block clubs again.
What's a block club?
No, really? Oh, yeah, you're from Maryland, right? We laugh.
No, I know what it is, but I want the audience to be educated. We used to have them all the time, but what is a block club?
Block club? Like, man, the neighbors was on your neck, like, could nothing pass, you know what I'm saying? Everybody looking out for one another. They having meetings, what's going to happen, you know what I'm saying? If somebody new on the block, they got to be, you from the neighborhood, it's molding and conditioning. So it's like, man, that was family. Like block clubs, we looking out for each other. We hiring our own security, you know what I'm saying? If we got a daddy at work, at home that don't have no job, let's pay him to secure the block. You know what I'm saying? It don't even make sense. Old girl ain't got no job. She need to be watching the kids, like really using our people as resources. Let's pay them. But we going out here paying, people that don't look like us, or, these different companies where we got really everything inside our community, and we can really do it ourselves if we come together in unity. All praises due to the Most High.
Yeah, she threw the word block club out there, and people were like, what is that? And we used to have not just block clubs but block parties, right? So you didn't have to worry about really leaving the comfort of your neighborhood, because your neighborhood was your family. You could I could walk up the street, and no matter if I went 10 blocks north, 10 blocks south, 10 blocks east, 10 blocks west, everybody knew my family. Yes. Everyone knew who we were. So before you even got home, you got scolded, talked to, pulled up, scolded again, pulled up, probably plucked before you even reached your door. And then it started all over again. Because that was the neighborhood. That was the value of a family in an urban market, right? Mm-hmm. Because everyone was together. So tell them one more time, Kelly, what is the
block club. So the block club is family. The block club, you stick together as a unit. The block club is your whole community, because I can just remember being chastised by the lunch aides in my elementary school. So it came from everywhere. And like you said, you got the phone call before you even hit the block. Like, hey, so tighten her up, So it was like everything. It was a family. It was a community, and everybody in the community worked together as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're live tonight with Kelly Brown, straight from Detroit, Michigan. She lives in an urban community in Detroit. She's helping us to understand. She is the CEO of a nonprofit organization. She just broke down one of the barriers she found that is a need in her community, which is that of or lack of proper nutrients or fuel source. So her community needs a food desert. And Kelly identified, and I'm doing a recap for those that are just tuning in, because we started this late, but we're now live on Facebook for those that are tuning in. So Kelly said that she was mad with herself because they just put a KFC in her neighborhood and she was not able to show up at that meeting. And so Kelly, real quick, before we go into number 2, can you recap how others in your community can get involved, not just from a, missing the meeting that you mentioned, but how can others in your community help to increase more opportunities for, for access to foods and things such as that?
So again, just recapping on that, coming together as a community, we need to know who our leaders are in our community, creating block clubs in our community, getting back to realness and wholeness, and owning, operating our own structures. And when I say I missed not only one meeting, I missed the process. So I'm upset with myself for missing the process because I seen them building, but I wasn't there to understand what they was building there. You know what I'm saying? So me missing the process of what they were doing in my community, as well as me not being at that table. You know what I'm saying? So it was multiple meetings, just not that one. It was like, man, I'm upset with myself because if we were at the table, this wouldn't be here. Yeah,
absolutely. And so get involved. Understanding.
Yeah. So understanding who your community leaders are, understanding your councilman, and being at being at those meetings, being at the meetings, knowing who your district leaders are and where's the meetings being held at in your community. I'm pretty sure it's at a local school or a local community house or something like that. Like, it's definitely in the community. Find out whatever district you in. So for me, I'm in District 7 in the city of Detroit. So just understanding, like, it's time for us to really sit at the table. They're going to keep pushing us out and they're going to keep rocking us to sleep. And it's time to wake up.
Yeah. And I love how you broke it down as to what district you're in. In my community, there are 7 districts represented by 7 different councilmen. Is one African-American who happens to be the chair of the councilman. And I'm in District 4. Okay. So as you mentioned, understanding your community, how many districts are there, right? Because if you know the districts, then as you mentioned, Kelly, you're able to know the leaders of that district. Mm-hmm. So that when there are meetings going on, you can't say, well, that don't have anything to do with me. Right. It does, but whatever's going on your particular district, that's where you'll have even more influence. Yeah, where you can understand that that process. And as Kelly mentioned, for those that are out there trying to figure out not just the problems in your community, but how you can have an impact, they are having county meetings virtual now. When we weren't in a pandemic, they are being held at the cafeteria. I mean, at the elementary schools, mm-hmm. at the high schools, at the rec centers. So find out how your community is broken down, as Kelly identified. Understand the leadership in your community, understand and start showing up. Understand the process to make a difference for change. Mm-hmm. Correct, Kelly?
Yep, correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, Kelly, let's go back to you identify a second pain point in your community. For the audience out there, can you recap that one more time for me?
For the second disparity that we were discussing, home ownership, being an owner and a stakeholder in the community, owning and operate where you're from. I can remember reading somewhere where it say the black dollar circulate maybe 7 times within the community, and then it goes right back out to build somebody else's community that's getting paid, that's working in our community that don't look like us. So when I say that, like, look at our gas stations. We don't have enough black owned gas stations. We don't have enough we don't have any black owned grocery stores yet. Raphael, this guy from Detroit, his name is Raphael Wright. He's from the east side of Detroit. He is building a black owned grocery store. And I'm truly excited for that. But we need more. We need more. You know, we have a lot of barbershops and hair salons. We need healthy food. We need people to be supporting those barbershops and salons. You know what I'm saying? Like, why we going outside the city and doing all these other things when it's right here in our community and we can do it together and build? You know, that brings economic change in our community where housing can be sustainable. So even with that, with home ownership, I always wanted to purchase these homes on my block. It's a duplex. And I can remember so many people, why you doing that? Or why you buying? Because the neighborhood was depleting. The value was going down. And I'm looking like, man, it's the best time to buy right now. You know what I'm saying? I ain't have all my ducats in a row, but the little ducats I did have, I'm like, Lord, I want you know what I want. And I was blessed to be able to purchase property in my community, you know, so now I'm up 4 properties in 2 community lots. And it's like, I'm a stakeholder. I got something to say when I pull up on X and Y. You know what I'm saying? I got somewhere to go.
DTD Urban Multisport Consulting Firm, formerly the Creative GRP, limited liability company, provides leadership training and business growth development to nonprofits, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and youth. DTD Urban Multisport Consulting Firm has been in existence post 15 years and is the 7-time recipient of the Baltimore Small Business Consulting Award, the 2016 recipient of the USCA Best of Baltimore Training Award, and was inducted into the Best of Baltimore Business Hall of Fame. DTD Urban Multisport Consulting Firm core values are: 1, innovation drives transformation; 2, vision drive change; 3, leadership transform results; and 4, advocacy increases awareness of needs. To assist in the growth of its client's business, DTD Urban Multisport Consulting Firm has an accredited online academy of workforce development, business and education, DTD Sports Academy for urban youth, and a deep dive academy. In addition to services such as business consulting, program development, instrument creation, operations management, leadership training and development, plus more. DTD Urban Multisport Consulting Firm elevates the leader within so that there is less micromanaging taking place in the boardroom, the training center, and the break room. No matter the phase or stage in business, an individual is DTD Urban Multisport Consulting Firm. We work with individuals just starting out to those that need business makeovers and areas in between. We work in specialty areas such as DEIA, training and development, persons with disabilities services, building communities, program development, and getting connected to the urban market. We serve the continental U.S. and abroad online, hybrid, and in person. Our staff encompasses over 200 years of knowledge, business, and experience, and we want to work with you. Book a free consultation now at www.urbanmultisportconsulting.com.
So you just identified a problem, but you also gave a solution, which is why we're here. As we're going deep, getting ready for our It's Time to Go Deep Summit, the #1 International Development Summit, transforming urban markets. We are live right now with Kelly Brown, the CEO of a nonprofit up in Detroit, Michigan, helping us to understand what is happening in her community, not just from a problematic standpoint, but how we can offer solutions. Yes. Kelly talked about #1, the food deserts and what is happening in the community, not just understand the problem and lack thereof equity in food distribution or access, but showing up and understanding what your community, how it's divided, what district are you in, who those city leaders happen to be, understand the process and having a voice of the change and the implementation of what's happening beyond just the beginning and ending of your block. Now, Kelly is talking about another disparity, which is home ownership, which is having a direct impact on an economic value that's taking place. So Kelly talked about at one point, she dreamed of owning some of these houses, boarded up houses being underutilized, and now she owns 4. So Kelly, help us to understand for those that are listening, and because even in my area, not necessarily in the county where I live, but in the city, there are streets and streets and streets of boarded up houses. You know, the homeless population has increased. You know, the unemployment has increased. The underemployment has increased. The poverty levels are skyrocketing. So not having to dive deeper, but let's go deep in what did you do to have a dream of purchasing a home to now having 4 properties. And like you said, now you're rolling up to not be on this side, but to now lead change. Help us to understand what their process looked like for anyone out there who wants to do the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. So that process goes into the transformation in the urban market, where when we talk about the urban market and we talk about transformation and how I wanted to gain access, for me, it was the when, the who, and the why, right? So in the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, I really went in a awakening where God woke me up. I can just remember praying and asking God to give me something greater to do. I'm tired of living this lifestyle. I didn't have a plan, or I didn't have a purpose. And there was a void in my heart that I was missing. And I tried it with everything. And it's like, I'm just tired of living day to day, paycheck to paycheck, the same old, same old. And it had to start with the mind. The who, it was myself and me understanding this is what affect the next generation. And the why was I knew I wanted more out of life. I knew I didn't want the same old, and I wanted to leave a legacy. You know, so my nieces and nephews, the ones that's coming up, they don't have to start from A and B and C. They can just add to the blueprint that my auntie has already left. So when my auntie made her transition, key things that she told me just growing up that stood with me was, Kelly, you always want to own things. You never want to be a renter. And that stuck with me. You know, as I got older, like, oh, I know what she understanding. You never want to pay your bills partial. You want to pay full. A lot of things that she taught me, and it really, I didn't understand it then, but it started to stick. So it was like, I want to be an owner in my community. I want to be able to offer low income housing to people that look like me. You know, I'm not kicking nobody over the head for no rent. You know what I'm saying? I want you to be able to live, you know, but pay me my money.
Yeah, absolutely. So not just your aunt leaving a legacy for your nieces and nephew, but what was that one for you? So you had this dream, you had this vision, and what was the first thing that you did for yourself moving towards making your dream a reality?
Mindset.
Mindset. Okay, go ahead.
I had to recondition my thinking. I had to recondition the conditioned thinking that was placed upon me. You know, when you growing up, you know, it's conditioned. Things is just being passed. But is these things beneficial to us? You know, go to school, get a good job, go to college, and that does not make sense. You know, so I need something now that makes sense. And I started questioning things like, why are we not passing nothing down to one another? Why is it that other races and other communities are thriving and grinding and growing and we're stuck? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I have to change my thinking. So within the transformation of my thinking, I started to change the transformation in my spending habits, where that was so important because all we do is spend. I had a problem with spending all my money in the mall. And I'm gonna read a quote from one of my journals at the end that really made me shift my focus on, I gotta save my money. I can't go out this weekend. You know what I'm saying? It was the discipline that I had to create within myself, where I was able to get the 2 properties, you know, like, dang, I can do this now. You know what I'm saying? When I used to blow thousands of dollars at the mall, I can save. And then too, my refund checks from school, I stopped blowing those. Again, the reconditioning of my thinking. The money that I used to get from our refund checks, I used to just blow them. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like, okay, I'm going into a transition of changing my thinking. Let me do something powerful with my money. So that's where I started to learn. It was a transformation of my thinking and transforming my mind from a spending habit to a saving habit. And that's when I say being fruitful, frugal, and effective with my money.
Absolutely. So mindset and discipline and being conservative. And so we know we're entering a holiday season, right? Yeah. We know that economic deficit is one of the number one, the social economic positioning of families and businesses in an urban market is by far a deficit. And so what we're hearing from Kelly is saying, listen, there are problems in the urban market, but there are also solutions. And it starts with the individual, not number one, the mindset. Number two, the discipline. Number three is being conservative, right? We know that this was a problem pre-COVID back in March 2020, right? Yeah. And we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Matter of fact, it's a COVID, a Delta variant, the cough, you know, we're going into something else. I mean, every time we turn around, it's something else. It went from 2 vaccine shots to now a booster shot, and we might have a 4th one. So what have we learned in this time? But not just what we've learned, but how do we come out of it? Go ahead, Cal.
Yo, what we learned in this time, you better get your mind right. You better come from under the wool. You could come from under the veil that God is really trying to show us what's really going on and how that this government is really falling. You know, I believe it's deliberate planning. Again, it's to rock the people to sleep. Anywhere where chaos and confusion is, God is not there. So when there's so much chaos and confusion where you don't even know what to believe. You know, so just understanding, you know, even in this pandemic too, this not trying to get off subject, it was to get our families back in line, to get your mind right. If you wasn't already social distancing, you better start social distancing now. It's time to check your household, get everything back in line and get back in order, because we had strayed so far away. Well, we not listening and we ain't paying attention, and then, you know, this device right here kind of killed us. In a sense where everybody looking down and we ain't looking up no more. And it's like God put a heart on the world, like get right and come back to me. So, you know, understanding that, man. And I just thank God for keeping me during the pandemic, keeping me after the pandemic, keeping my family and my friends and all my loved ones, that the pestilence of this air didn't kill us, you know. So I'm just thankful.
Visionary leader Dr. Tekemia Dorsey presents the It's Time to Go Deep Summit, the #1 international development summit transforming urban markets. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit is not a normal summit. It's a game-changing summit. The mission of the It's Time to Go Deep Summit is to provide personal development and business growth training to nonprofits, small businesses, and entrepreneurs while increasing resources to the urban market. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit is uniquely different because it is the only summit focused on transforming the urban market by providing training resources to leaders and managers so they can become the resources needed in their community, their industry, and themselves. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit speakers are experts in their industries and remain excited to serve, increase greater impact, and to leave the legacy they are destined to do, as did their ancestors. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit goal is to share proven methodology and best practices to current and aspiring leaders and managers for success in business and in life. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit's objective is to assist in the formulation of a blueprint, framework, system, or process for attendees that evoke immediate action. Professional and personal training are ongoing goals needed for positive and transformational growth and development. The It's Time to Go Deep Summit focus is on closing the disparities and barriers that exist by meeting nonprofits, small business owners, and entrepreneurs where they are. The theme of this year's summit is Learn What You Don't Know and Teach What You Do. Grab your free virtual ticket now at www.itstimetogodiepsummit.com.
No, absolutely. And for those that are tuning in, we are on the road to the Deep Dive Summit, which is January 13th through 15th. It's Time to Go Deep Summit, the #1 international development summit transforming the urban markets. And if you know anything about me, it's more than just on the surface. And we want to go deep, as the focus of the summit, it is providing personal development and business growth training to nonprofits, entrepreneurs, small businesses, while increasing resources to the urban market. Yes, and let me knock out the myth of urban markets before we come back to Kelly, right? And so the myth of the urban market is that it's all Black, and that is by far incorrect. When you're thinking about the urban market, to those listeners, I want you to think about the socioeconomic deficit of what's taking place inside of a community. That's the urban market. And if you're thinking about the socioeconomic deficit, then the social economic deficit is not linked to a color, a gender, an ethnicity, a religion affiliation. It is linked to people. It's called humanity. So when you think about the urban market, I want listeners to stop thinking Black. I want you to start thinking the melting pot, DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. Yeah. And when we're thinking about it that way, then we are really separating all of this white, Black, Puerto Rican, Asian, because what we do know is that all money is green. Yeah. All coins are different colors, and they all spin the same way. So when you're thinking about the social economic market, again, it's the social economic status that's different from the suburban and the rural areas, which in hindsight, it truly impacts everyone. So we're live tonight on this road to the Deep Dive Summit. We have one of our ambassadors, as well as our VIP premier speakers, Ms. Kelly Brown from Detroit, Michigan. She already talked about the lack of a food desert in her community, understanding what your district is made up of, who the leaders are in your community, and getting involved. So the food desert is a problem, but the solution is use your voice for positive change and be a part of the process. Number two, she talked about the social economic deficit that's happening with a lack of home ownership. She at one point wanted to own a home, and now she has 4. So she talked about mindset, not just mindset, but discipline, not just mindset and discipline, however, also the way you're spending money. And these were all issues before COVID-19, but they're even more prevalent now. So we're back with Kelly right now. And Kelly, help us to understand that number 3 disparity that you talked about that is plaguing your community that you feel in Detroit.
So the third one was going back to the social and economic conditions. So I had to become more frugal, and effective with my finances. And that's when I'm gonna read the quote too, because it's going in line, right? So I says, the more you learn, the more you earn. My education budget is bigger than my entertainment budget. And that's by Warren Buffett. So it said, my values change. I once had a spending habit. I used to spend all my money in the mall, which is one of our biggest enemies. I finally became educated on what to do with my money. You must learn how to control your money, or your money will control you. My money was running me. My money was controlling me. Every time money hit my hand, it was out the window because I didn't have a respect for it. I was spending it in my mind before it hit my pocket, before the check was even dropped or deposited. I'm already spending like, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, so no discipline. And those are things that can a solution to a problem where we can start talking about money in our homes. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got to be afraid to talk about money. Money is the root of all evil. I remember when I was stingy with money, when money wouldn't flow to me like it flows now, but I had to release it and respect it. Now I come back to me like, oh, I'm able to sow seeds now. So just being able to understand money, understand credit. So that's another tool in the program. It's called Solo Saving Our Lost Ones. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Is geared towards ages 10 to 18. So in the program, in the process of redeveloping it now, I was able to purchase a school bus, right? And in that, talking about disparities and talking about solutions in the urban market, where I seen it was a transportation was really poor in where I work. Like, y'all ain't coming to school, or y'all ain't seen this school, let's do school tours. So I had kids living in the community that haven't even been outside their community, 4 blocks, 5 blocks. And it's like, y'all didn't see the Boston Edison area, these beautiful big homes. You never seen the school Cass Tech where they got, it's a school, it's glass, not set up as a prison, And to be able to, I need transportation, so in the works of trying to get funding for the bus now, purchase it with cash now, got the 501c3, we're able to figure out how we're going to get funding for this bus. And with the bus, we're going to have speakers on the bus talking about health, people that look like us, talking about wealth. I want to take these kids to court cases so they can understand, the things that's going, the documentation, in your paperwork, talking about plea deals, talking about court-appointed lawyers, things that's not talked about, talking about don't cop that plea if you ain't do that crime. You know what I'm saying? Like understanding and reading reading that paperwork. And it's just so important, we're being about your authentic self. You know what I'm saying? Talk about characteristics and things that can't be bought. So just breaking you down and build you up is the main component in the program, where it's going to be used. It's a solution builder. It's a solution.
And so what I'm hearing you say, and that's the heart of who I am, is that you're not just looking outward at your community and saying, here are these concerns with adults. What you're saying, and what I'm hoping that the listeners that are watching this or live or replay or listening, is that if we really want to make a difference, we have to go back and pull up the next generation of leaders, which are our youth. And a lot of people may not have the mindset that they can deal with youth, or the youth are disturbed, or they're hard to talk with or deal with. Well, guess what? At some point, that was us, right? Yeah. We were those youth, and someone reached back and created a legacy. So we're having this conversation today. And so you and I have the same, not mindset, but action, because my program, and you can see the t-shirt behind me, I have a DTD Sports Academy for Urban Youth, which is centered on student leadership, helping them become leaders in their community. And the one thing that you talked about that is a disparity in the urban market is that of transportation, right? Mm-hmm. Transportation. And I know in the county I live in the city, and even in our state, it's hard for parents where there is not a MTA system, bus system, or even the mass train, that they can get from one side of the county to the other side. Yeah. So if in my county, we're divided by 7 districts, one district could be rich, another district could be held captive. And so if there's a resource on this side, how do they get there? Yeah. If there are no bus transportation or transportation in general, that's going to help. And what you said was, this is the issue in my community in Detroit. So I have my mind set on getting a bus. Yeah. Now that we have a 501c3, getting the bus paid for, and now getting these kids to understand there's more to your community than a 5-block radius. Definitely. That's impact. That's transformation. That's not saying it, that's doing it. And the reason why we're having this discussion, I'm gonna let Kelly chime in, is because there are a lot of issues in the urban market, right? And it's not just the issues we want to identify, we want to go deep with solutions. And even what I'm hearing from Kelly is that she's not just sitting around a table, meeting after meeting after meeting, saying this is an issue. She's actionable, right? Yeah. She's moving forward. And so go ahead, Kelly, go ahead and chime in.
No, I wish I had it up. That quote that you said in the summit at the end. And so go ahead. If you can read that, because I don't have it in front of me, and I wrote it down on another piece of paper, where it talks about not being basically being boots on the ground, not in a micromanage position.
Let me pull it up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I actually. So what Kelly is referring to as one of our ambassadors, she helps us to share the information that's going forward. And what I share with them is, it says, to transform others, we must first be willing to transform ourselves. And I choose to lead than to micromanage. And that is a difference between leading and managing, because leaders are transformational in their actions. And there's nothing wrong with managers. Don't get me wrong. It helps the hamster wheel go round, where managers are there to micromanage. Where at the It's Time to Go Deep Summit, and everyone involved, they are looking to lead by example. And Kelly, by far, you and your team and your community, you're leading by example. So go ahead.
That was just powerful, like that. I read that statement so many times, like it just felt chills in my body. Like this me, you know what I'm saying? Like being a leader, being a transformational coach, being able to transition, it's just powerful. And I want other people to experience what I'm experiencing in life right now, and to just get on board with reshifting their thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about one thing as we're, I know this is we're going over, but you know, when you're just talking authentic to the heart, conversational, why this conversation with you, to me, Kelly, is so important. And why we're going deep is because there are similarities in urban markets, but there are also disparities as well. And it's not just the disparities and gaps that I'm trying to reach with this It's Time to Go Deep Summit, but really identify solutionable actions that any and everyone can think differently to evoke change in themselves, their business, and their community. So one thing that you talked about in the beginning, and for those who are just tuning in, you got to go back and watch the beginning of our this discussion. You talked about one of the things of not building community relationships. Yeah. Can you talk a little more about that, and what do you mean, and why is that one of the hindrances that you find as a nonprofit leader?
Yeah, you know, I take it back to nobody is being a watchman no more. Nobody is on their post. And community is so important when people don't know their neighbors. Like I need to be poking out the window, seeing what's going on. If I notice somebody that don't supposed to be on the block, or if I'm noticing some illegal action, yeah, I'm picking up the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like getting back to building, and how important it was, where it's like, you don't know your neighbor. You know what I'm saying? You don't know who in that household. You don't know what's going on. And that goes to where you seeing now so much turbulence in our city, where in our city and the nation and other cities as well, where kids and women are being abducted in communities where it's like, you live right here and you don't know the traffic that's coming in and out of this household. So important on going back, owning and operating, and being stakeholders in our community. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to go back to community. That's what's going to save us, man. That's what saved me. And that's why I'm able to stand tall like I am, because community saved me. My neighborhood saved me, you know.
And what are some strategies, or at least how have you built community relationships in your area to at least at this point feel like you are making a difference and you're not by yourself? Could you share that?
Yeah, so definitely. We have a community house in right across the street in my neighborhood, and it's funded by Brilliant Detroit. So, you know, when it first became, you know, like, what y'all doing here? What, you know, going out? Who owning this home now? What's going on? Oh, okay, there's something for the community. Okay, how can I be a part? You know what I'm saying? How can I be a partner? How can this work for everybody? You know, so just being a part of what's going on, like, it's beautiful. Like, you want to live where it's richness, you know what I'm saying? Richness in spirit, where when you pull up in your community, you safe. Like, growing up, I can remember we used to sleep on the front porch. We didn't have to lock our doors. It was like a Dennis the Menace neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Our houses might not have been that big, but that's what the community felt like. All the kids playing, you know what I'm saying? It was just love. And I know that's what we need to go back to, man, to sustain this for sure.
And that sounds easy, Kelly. Yeah, we know, and it is not. And you're right. And so a lot of leaders and even managers, businesses, small businesses, nonprofits, they're having a hard time on how to craft that conversation. You know, where do they start? Do they start first in the I need, this is what I'm about? So you said right across the street from you is this community organization. Yeah. So what did you do? Help the audience to understand, you know, because it sounds easy. It sounds great. We know it's impactful and effective, but what did you do, Kelly, to build up the confidence to go start that conversation, to even know to get to know the leaders and who ran that community program?
Yeah. I just think for me, it's just being your authentic self, you know what I'm saying? Like, and to do yourself how you feel comfortable. And I'm not coming over there talking and I'm coming talking how I talk. I'm not changing my verbiage. I'm not changing anything. I want you to hear me. I'm important, and my kids on this block is important, and the people are important. What are we going to do to help build? And the community house is thriving. Like, it's really a community house. No matter the color of who started it, they know the agenda and the plan is to help save these babies. So just being a part of something great. Don't be afraid to you got to step outside the box. You got to be able to leave. Listen. I was going to reach that at the end, but everybody can't go. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just can't go. And it's like, you want to see cleanliness, you want to see change. And the people that want to see those things, those are the ones that you're talking to. Those are the ones that's going to get involved and put boots on the ground. Unfortunately, everybody can't go. I'm like the Harriet Tubman of my generation. I might swoop back around and come get you, but you better be ready. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is. Like, man, I want my community to thrive. When I pull up on Joy Road, I want to be able to be like a Royal Oak. And that's a suburban area where it's nice, it's clean. You know what I'm saying? Like, taking control of our communities and keeping it clean. Like, no, pick the paper up. Like, you ain't gonna throw it out there in the, like, don't keep our stuff clean. I like nice things, so just, hey man, the people that want to go, they ready to go. They ready to mount up for sure.
Yeah, and I love how you broke that down. And for those that are tuning in, watching it, the replay, this is how deep we're going at the It's Time to Go Deep Summit, the #1 international development summit transforming urban markets. So that's huge, right? Absolutely. But what makes that It's Time to Go Deep Summit is exactly what Kelly is demonstrating now. We're not just giving you theories. We're going to give you practical applications step by step by step. One of the #1 problems in communities is building community relationships. Mm-hmm. It sounds easy. It sounds great. It sounds like, man, let me just walk out the door and put my coat on, right? Absolutely not, because some people don't want to hear what you have to say. Yeah. Kelly is encouraging everyone, be your authentic self. So leave your agenda at the door if this is your first conversation with someone in your community. It's called humanity. Build the relationships because you are just people in general. And then from there, you're going to understand what your interests are. You're going to understand what you're bringing to the table. You're going to understand where your gaps are. And if you know this as an individual from a company standpoint, it's going to roll over into a conversation and not be forceful. And when it's not forceful, it's relaxed, right?
And you're not afraid. I can remember my homeboy, we were doing a peace walk, fun peace downtown, and he approached a couple of dudes from the streets or whatnot, and it'd be when you talking different, it'd be like, and you talking about something positive. Some people don't want to hear about positive, or they think they too cool, but it's like, man, put that guard down. You know what I'm saying? You too cool to build your community up. You too cool to keep your kids safe. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's change the mindset and really grow. One of my quotes is, I don't want to be the freshest in the neighborhood. I want to be one of the wealthiest.
That's deep. But then again, I don't expect anything different from D. Kelly Brown, straight out of Detroit, Michigan. And so as we're wrapping this up, and again, what I love about you, Kelly, is the fact that I don't want to use the word raw, but you're just straightforward. Yeah. And, sometimes that's offensive to some people because they don't know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, in the times that we live in, we simply have to be transparent and forth approaching, because the world that we once knew is not the world we're in now. Yeah. And we don't know what tomorrow brings. So be the solution, not the problem, and all will be great. So Kelly, you went a little deep today. People will see you at the It's Time to Go Deep Summit. They will see you all over Facebook as we continue to roll this out. What are you talking about? Don't give them everything, but what is one key thing why people should tune in, and what are they going to learn from D. Kelly Brown at the It's Time to Go Deep Summit? Take it away.
Definitely. they're gonna learn a lot of things, but I'm gonna leave them with I make my moves in silence, meaning you don't have to tell everybody what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how you're doing it. You just drop it in silence. Everybody can't go, meaning everybody can't go to the next stage where God is trying to take you and elevate you to. And I am the interruption, literally meaning I am the interruption of my family. I'm not passing down any more generational curses, lies, and the same blueprint that ain't got us no money. It's time to change the mindset, and it's time to go deep. Tune in. Let's go.
Let's go! Kelly said it!
Let's go!
Football game, y'all.
Let's go. And I definitely gotta thank, man, Monique Grant, man, my PR, man, for putting me on this right here, man. She definitely did her work diligently, man. So, man, I just thank God, the Most High God, man, the God Almighty, the God of all gods, the kings of all kings, man, Elohim, for just blessing me to be where I am today, man. All praises due. To God be the glory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember Monique calling my admin, and she was like, Kelly Brown. And my admin is like, are you signed up? We knew that she wasn't. She was like, no. And Natasha was like, how are you going to advocate for somebody else and you're not even part? So she was like, you're right. And boom, Monique is also a part. So shout out to Monique that's listening. Another one of my, the theme of the It's Time to Go Deep Summer is learn what you know and teach what you don't know. Yeah. And so what's going to make this summit different from anyone else? So in case you don't know, go to right now to www.itstimetogodiepsummit.com. It's free. Go and register, bring a friend, tell a friend, what makes this summit different, because all summits are important. But what makes this summit different is that not every speaker is charged to teach what they know and help the audience to understand what they don't know, which means that every attendee will walk out with a blueprint, a framework, a process, or a system, just like what you heard tonight in this discussion with Kelly, so that it will evoke immediate change. So you're probably saying, Dr. Dorsey, that is a tall order. You're right. But if you know anything about me, when it's said, it's going to be done. Now, can we guarantee you having $1 million in your bank account after 3 days? No. Absolutely not. But what we can do is guarantee that you will be able to think, see, and act differently. Yes. After day 1 of the summit, and day 3 is simply a blessing. So if you want to understand and know what we know, and understand and understand the lineup that we have available. And here's the other thing: every topic by each speaker that's hand selected is unique. So you're not going to have a whole lot of overlapping discussion about the same thing. But we are meeting nonprofits, small businesses, and entrepreneurs where they currently are. Mm-hmm. Huge, not over your head, not under your head, but meeting you where you are. And every speaker is relatable. Can you relate to Kelly? I know I can, because she's describing her community in Detroit and I'm in Baltimore. So the urban market is what it is. Problems are what they are, but the solutions is what helps to break the hamster wheel cycle. Kelly, any parting words before we get out of here?
Definitely parting words, man. If you want to purchase, go to the website where you can get a hoodie. I make my moves in silence. Everybody can go, and I am the interruption. You can go on www.imakemymovesinsilence.com where you can find the merch, and you can also find the quote journal, man. 10 years of how God shifted me from the crowd. I will definitely be dropping some keys from the journal that the people can learn in the summit. So go purchase it, man. So the day of the summit, man, come in your gear, man. Come ready, come prepared.
Yes, absolutely. And so Kelly didn't know this, but we have a 10 registry challenge going on. So we want 10 registrants from now, which is, at the top of the hour. I won't say it is, between now and halfway through. So Kelly, what we're going to do is that we're going to reach out to our supporters and see if we can get 10 new registries, because it's free, it's virtual, and we're taking away all these barriers that typically would prevent anyone from being able to attend, we're eliminating them. So a 10 registry challenge starting right now. Let's see if we can top that. So Kelly, what we're going to do is that I'm going to have you text 10 people you know. Okay. I'm going to text 10 people I know. And by time tomorrow, we're going to see if we hit it. So I know what number we are right now. And let's see if we can increase in the next half an hour. So we look forward to speaking with another one of our speakers on this road to It's Time to Go Deep Summit. We enjoy everyone that has watched it, the replay, the original people. The only way that we're going to truly make a difference in the urban market, and I say the urban market because I'm born, raised, and still living in that industry, in that market, and it matters to me. My grandmother had a PhD in urban culture. I'm only at the master's level, so I'm hoping to have a double PhD, hopefully before God calls me home. But it's not about me, it's about you, and it's about us having discussion. It's about us being transparent, and not just about the problems, but how can we evoke change and transformational action for each person we come in contact with. Well, if you didn't understand, Kelly said it tonight, it starts with you. So my question to you is, what are you going to do differently than yesterday that's going to make an impact tomorrow? You can start right now by going to www.itstimeToGoDeepSummit.com. Meet us in the summit, and then we'll go from there. So this is Dr. Tekemia Dorsey, and we're out. Stay tuned.